Before we get on with the podcast, I'd like to mention that I now have 3 books for sale on Kindle. Recommended Reading for the True Conservative, Bad Democrat, and now Evil Liberal. All available for $3.99 or through Kindle Unlimited. Now, on with the podcast.
And you guys met at a bar. Good.
Yeah.
Alcohol. It's good. I'm Irish. I'm half Irish, half Scottish, which means I like to get shit-faced and wear a skirt. But it also means that I've never had a tan in my life. I get burned by the moon on cloudy nights. It's sad. I do drink a lot. I used to belong to AA, but I had to quit that because I don't know if you know this, but their drinking policy is really strict. And now I just have a glass of wine with dinner. And so far today, 11 dinners. That's pretty good, right? Yeah.
Good morning. It's Thursday, Psycho Thursday, June the 2nd, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we will have Varney and Company, motivation, meditation, and psychopathy. All that and more when I get back. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I should not change, the courage to change the things I should, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Thank you. Now, Varney and Company.
And a great weekend, everybody. And please be safe. Varney and Company picks it up now. Stu, take it away.
Good morning, Maria. Morning, everyone. In 4 months, it is the midterm elections. So how's the economy doing? It's always a key issue, isn't it? Well, look at this. In June, just 57,000 jobs were added to the economy. The unemployment rate came in at 4.2%, which, by the way, is the lowest rate in a year. Now, the administration may not be too excited by these numbers. Job growth is slowing. The market showing modest gains at this this out. Well, solid, I'd say. The Dow up 200, S&P up 18, 94 points higher on the Nasdaq. Oil, a little lower. A small number of ships continues to cross the Strait of Hormuz, $67 a barrel as we speak. Little change for gas as we start the holiday driving season. Regular averages $3.83. In California, it is $5.40, and diesel has come down a little bit more, $4.82. Bitcoin hovering around $61,000 this morning. The yield on the 10-year Treasury, 4.5%, just about 4.47. The 2 years getting close to 4.20. That's at 4.13, but heading down a bit this morning. On the show today, the president responds to the election of socialists in New York and Colorado. He says communism is the greatest threat to the nation. He says it's like a cancer that spreads and you've got to stop it fast. Moderate Democrats beginning to respond to the socialist threat. In the Washington Post, this opinion, no more appeasement. Democrats need to fight the DSA. That will be the Democratic Socialists of America. They will hold a socialist summit in Chicago later this month. Micron doing a good deed, perhaps to gain some favor from the president. Micron will put $250 million into those Trump accounts, the market putting it up $8. And then there's the World Cup. It really is the best World Cup ever. Last night, Team USA beat Bosnia-Herzegovina. There were wild celebrations all over the country. Everyone came together. It was a thrill to see the great goal scorers, Messi, Haaland, Mbappe, Harry Kane, all playing in America in the American World Cup. Wild success. Thursday, July the 2nd, 2026.
And that was Varney and Company, Nonprofit News Now. Back in a minute. Thank you. You know, there's something profoundly unsettling and yet liberating about waking up to the reality that you've been manipulated, that you've been used. Not respected, admired perhaps, but only insofar as you serve a purpose in someone else's narrative. And it's strange because we don't like to think of ourselves as victims, especially the conservative. That deeply feeling, deeply caring soul who always assumes the best in others, who offers grace when judgment is deserved, who stays far longer than they should. Empathy is a virtue, no doubt. It allows us to understand one another, to reach across the divide of individuality, and resonate with the pain and struggle of another human being. It is the foundation of compassion, of forgiveness, and respect. But what happens when empathy is weaponized? What happens when a person who cannot or will not reciprocate that empathy encounters someone who cannot stop giving it? That's where things become dangerous. That's where empathy, ungoverned by discernment and boundaries, becomes a breeding ground for tyranny. It begins suddenly. The conservative feels the unspoken hurt in others and responds intuitively. A gesture of comfort here, a silence maintained there, often at the expense of truth. They believe, often unconsciously, that by softening their own edges, they can reduce the suffering of those around them. And in ordinary relationships, that tendency can create harmony. But the bad Democrat doesn't operate that way. They don't reciprocate, they exploit. And the conservative, precisely because of their high sensitivity to the emotions of others, becomes the perfect host. The bad Democrat identifies compassion as a resource, not as a gift to be treasured, but as a tool to be used. They test the limits of the conservatives' compassion and forgiveness. They engineer guilt-provoking anxiety and create cycles of emotional turmoil, not always through overt cruelty, but more often through subtle manipulation, the withholding of affection, the sowing of confusion, the reframing of reality. And the conservative, rather than pulling away, leans in. They try harder, they rationalize, they self-sacrifice. Why? Because deep down, the conservative assumes responsibility. That's their moral compass. If someone is angry, they must have failed to soothe them. If someone is distant, they must have said something wrong. The bad Democrat exploits that compass like a puppeteer pulling strings. They teach the conservative to abandon truth for the sake of peace. But it is never real peace, only the absence of conflict. in exchange for the presence of control. And this is where the tyranny takes root, because the conservative, who once had a sense of self, gradually becomes disoriented. They begin to question their own intuition, their perceptions, even their memories. They live in a constant state of second-guessing, and because they see pain in the bad Democrat, often a very real pain, albeit one masked behind aggression or charm, they stay. They believe that if they can just understand more, absorb more, they can heal what is broken. But you cannot heal someone who's committed to using your healing energy as leverage. You cannot negotiate with someone who only sees your empathy as currency. And empathy without boundaries, empathy that does not include responsibility to the self, becomes self-betrayal. It enables a bad Democrat to continue a pattern that is fundamentally parasitic. There's a brutal irony here. The conservative believes that they're helping. They believe they're being noble, righteous even. But in refusing to set limits, in refusing to demand accountability, they are actually complicit in the bad Democrats' perpetration. They reinforce the very delusions that destroy the possibility of authentic connection. That's the terrible paradox. The more empathy the conservative gives, the more power they hand over to the bad Democrat, and the less of themselves remains intact. And the bad Democrat, they become emboldened. Each time the conservative forgives without consequence or accepts blame that isn't theirs. Silence is their own pain to protect the bad Democrat's ego. The bad Democrat is validated. They learned that the world should revolve around them. They believe their grandiosity is justified. Their manipulation is clever. Their cruelty is deserved. The conservative's empathy becomes the soil in which bad Democrat entitlement grows unchecked. At its worst, this dynamic becomes a psychological prison. The conservative internalizes the belief that they must continue. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, Jerry Wayne.
It printed while I was still standing at the register. That long white tongue of paper curling out of the machine like it had something to say. Like it had been waiting. The cashier, a young woman who has not yet known suffering, handed it to me with a smile. She didn't know. The young haven't yet learned the particular arithmetic of watching what a dollar used to hold slip through their fingers like creek water. Eggs, $3.99. I remember eggs. I remember when a man could look an egg in its face without flinching. Could carry a dozen to the counter with his chin held high, unbothered, solvent. That man is gone now. Ground beef, $7.49 a pound. We bought 2 pounds because we have a family, because they expect to be fed, because somewhere along the way, I made promises I now must keep at market value. Bread, $2.96. Bread, the oldest food, the food of scripture and communion and human endurance across 1,000 years of civilization. $2.96. Hell, Jesus made bread out of nothing and give it away. The Romans had bread in circuses. We have bread in a H-E-B rewards card that saved me 40 cents on dish soap, which I'm now supposed to feel grateful for. Milk, $3.77. I did not buy the milk. I stood there. I looked at it, and I made the decision that my family does not deserve joy in the morning, that we are a water family now. Our dairy days are behind us, and I walked away. The total came to $267.53 after $25 worth of coupons for 4 bags. 4 bags that will be gone by Sunday. And on Monday, I will return, because that's the covenant I have made with this place, with this parking lot, with that smiling H and smiling E and smiling B, who are not affected by any of this. I did not weep at the register. A man does not weep at the register. He weeps in his car, briefly, with the AC on. because don't get me started on gas prices.
Thank you. Now, motivation.
Every dream you have is going to be tested. Understand that. Ain't no easy walk to the top. Ain't no elevator to the top. You got to take the stairs. You're going to be tested. What you going to do when you get tested? Because you're going to get told no a bunch of times. So what you going to do? You got to master that. But the only way to master it is you got to get knocked down to understand how to get up. You must fall and roll over to know what it is to have to recover. You got to be down to understand up. You got to be under to know how to get over. You got to get to the low point to appreciate the high point. If you don't think it go like that, man, you might well get out now, because you're going to get tested. Now the question is, what you going to do when the test comes? It's hard keeping your spirits up. It's hard when you're hurting. It's hard. You got bills. You got responsibilities. It's hard. Easy, it's not an option. But it's worth fighting. It's worth believing. It's worth giving yourself a chance. It's worth mustering yourself up, standing up inside yourself. It's worth fighting relentlessly, never giving up. It's worth it. It is worth the struggle. It is worth whatever the struggle is to find out who you are and what you got and what you can do and what you can be. This fire you're feeling, this pressure you're feeling, this frustration you're feeling, this is what is going to make you into the weapon that you are going to become that will then build the life that you are out to build. Take this opportunity to recognize that the chaos in your life is actually forging you and improving you, because you're choosing to press on when everybody else is not willing to push on. What if problems were always gifts? What if every single problem really was a gift in your life? What if every problem you ever had was life happening for you, not to you? What if everything in our lives was guided? What if everything in our lives was divine timing? Everything, even the pain. When you're in the darkest place, when you feel like all is lost, when you think there's no way to turn it around, remember this: victory is near. You don't even know how creative you are until you run out of options. You don't know how innovative you are until you feel like your back is up against the wall. I am excited about your future because your darkness is about to be your development. Everybody can stand up and do good when everything is all good. Everybody can smile when the sun shines. Everybody can do right when everything is going right. Everybody can do that. But everybody can't face opposition, adversity, and challenges and say, I've been waiting on you to come. I'm going to embrace you, and I'm going to figure out a way to use you, because you would never make me a person that people don't recognize before the adversity. That's made out of my mind before the battle even happens, because I know I ain't running. I know I ain't quitting. I'm going to make a commitment, and no matter what happens, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get it done. That's the will. That's the most important part. There are some things that you're naturally gifted at. Others you gotta will your way through. I will my way through homelessness. I will my way through that GED. I will my way through that PhD. I will my way through to be a better father. I will my way through those books. I got what it takes. I got average skill, but I got phenomenal. I can. I have the ability to do it. I will. Somebody count on me. I will. I have the willpower to make it happen. We don't quit. We don't give up. We push a switch called will. Yes, we tired. Yes, we're hungry. Yes, the mind is saying give up. But we cannot quit, because we realize we have not reached the goal yet. This is not what I dreamed about. This is not what I said I was going to do. This is not what it looks like. I got to push. I must. It's not an option. And the reason why some of you are not where you're supposed to be, you've given yourself an option. You've given yourself an out. Failure is not an option. You can't even let it sink into your brain. Not even a second. You have to know that this thing is going to work. Come hell or high water, at some point, my dream is going to become a reality. So you are the captain of your ship, control your own destiny, your own life. You gotta talk to yourself. Sometimes healing takes place first in the spirit.
We must learn to talk to ourselves and focus on the internal things that we can control rather than the external things that we can't control.
And that was motivation. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, a little meditation. And that was a little meditation. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, psychopathy.
If the biggest lie you've ever believed is that you should always be realistic, since childhood you've been told to stay grounded. Don't dream too big. Don't expect too much. Don't think you're special. It sounds wise. But what if that advice has quietly destroyed more dreams than failure ever could? Look at the people who changed history. Before the world believed in them, they believed in themselves, sometimes so strongly that everyone else thought they were delusional. The truth is simple. Nobody wins by seeing only what already exists. Great winners first see what does not exist yet. So the real question isn't, are you being delusional? It's, are you delusional enough to become extraordinary? Most people misunderstand confidence. They think confidence comes after success. Machiavelli understood something far more dangerous. People don't follow certainty because it has proof. They follow certainty because certainty creates proof. Your beliefs shape your actions. Your actions shape your identity. Your identity shapes your future. That means your future is often decided long before reality catches up. In this video, you'll learn why ordinary thinking keeps people trapped, why extraordinary people think differently, and how strategic self-belief can become your greatest competitive advantage without losing touch with reality. Because sometimes, winning begins with believing something the world refuses to believe. Before we move forward, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I believe first. Let's go. Number 1, the psychological trap of realism. Let me ask you something. Think back to the last time you had a really big idea, something that genuinely excited you. Now think about what happened next. Did you chase it? Or did a voice in your head, or someone around you, say, be realistic? If you're like most people, that voice won, and you talked yourself out of it before you even tried. That's not wisdom, that's a trap, and almost everyone falls into it. Here's the thing about being realistic. On the surface, it sounds responsible. It sounds mature, like something a smart, grounded person would say. But when you dig into what it actually does to people, what it actually produces, the picture looks very different. Realism, the way most people use it, doesn't protect you from failure. It protects you from trying. And those are two completely different things. When society tells you to be realistic, what it's really saying is, stay where it's safe. Don't go further than where we've already been. Don't want more than what's already been proven possible, and on the surface that feels responsible. But underneath, it's fear dressed up in sensible clothing. Think about how this starts. You're a kid. You tell someone your dream. Maybe you wanted to be an astronaut, a professional athlete, a famous musician, or the founder of something big. And the adult in the room, someone who genuinely cared about you, looked at you and said something like, that's sweet, but you should have a backup plan. They weren't being cruel. They were passing on what they had been taught. They had been told the same thing when they were young. And that message got handed down generation after generation until playing it safe started to feel like intelligence. But here's what nobody told you. Every single thing you use in your daily life, your phone, the internet, the car you drive, the medicine that saves lives, was built by someone who refused to be realistic. Someone who looked at a world that didn't have that thing yet and said, I'm going to build it anyway. Every world-changing invention started as an unrealistic idea. Now here's where this gets really personal and really dangerous. The trap of realism doesn't just stop big ideas. It quietly shapes how you see yourself every single day. When you shrink your goals to avoid judgment, you start building a smaller identity. You stop thinking like someone who creates things and start thinking like someone who just reacts to things. And once that shift happens in your mind, it starts showing up everywhere. You stop raising your hand. You stop applying for the bigger opportunity. You stop saying what you actually think. You start waiting for someone to give you permission to want more. And that permission almost never comes. Here's the brutal truth. The world doesn't reward people who wait. It rewards people who move. And you cannot move boldly when your thinking is chained to what already exists. There's also a social layer to this that people rarely talk about. When you start pursuing something bigger, people get uncomfortable. Not because they want you to fail, but because your ambition reminds them of the dreams they buried. So they push back. They question your plan. They bring up every possible reason it won't work. And if you don't have strong enough belief in yourself, their doubt becomes your doubt. Their ceiling becomes your ceiling. This is why seeking approval before taking action is so deadly. Because you're putting your future in the hands of people who are still trapped in their own limitations. The only approval you ever needed was your own. Realism has its place. Understanding your current situation, knowing your resources, recognizing real obstacles, that's smart, that's necessary. Nobody is saying ignore reality completely, but there is a massive difference between understanding reality and being limited by it. The greatest achievers in history didn't deny reality. They refused to let current reality define their future reality. They held a vision so clearly and so strongly that they started moving toward it before anyone else could see it. That's not delusion. That's the first step of every real breakthrough. And here's what most people miss. Extraordinary goals are supposed to sound unrealistic at the beginning. That's how you know they're worth chasing. If your goal doesn't make someone slightly nervous or uncomfortable, it's probably not big enough to change anything. Small goals don't require courage. Big ones do. So the next time someone tells you to be realistic, ask yourself one thing. Realistic compared to what? Compared to what's already been done? Because everything that exists today was once considered impossible by someone. Stop letting the average of other people's thinking become the ceiling of your potential. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My vision is valid. Number 2, delusional self-belief as a competitive advantage. Every person you admire, every athlete, entrepreneur, artist, or leader who built something worth talking about had one thing in common. Before they had success, before they had money, before they had proof of anything, they believed in themselves first, not after the results showed up, not after people started clapping, not after the numbers made sense. Before all of that. And to the people watching from the outside, that kind of belief looks crazy. It looks arrogant. It looks like someone who doesn't understand how the world works. But here's the reality, that belief wasn't irrational. It was strategic. Most people have the order backwards. They think the sequence goes like this. Work hard, get results, then feel confident. And sure, that sounds logical. That sounds fair. But that's not how high performers actually operate. The real sequence looks different. Belief comes first. Then decisions change. Then actions change. Then results follow. When you genuinely believe something is going to work, you make different choices. You stay later. You try harder. You find solutions instead of excuses. You approach opportunities with a different energy, and people feel that. They respond to it. Confidence before evidence isn't delusion. It's the engine that creates the evidence. Think about Michael Jordan for a second. Before he became the standard for greatness, before the 6 championships, before every kid on the planet wanted to be him, there was a young man who got cut from his high school basketball team. He didn't sit down and wait for results to give him confidence. He went home, worked, and decided internally that he was going to be the best. That belief drove every practice, every extra rep, every early morning when nobody was watching. The results came later, but the belief came first. That's not a coincidence. That's the pattern. Now let's talk about doubt. Because doubt is not just personal. It spreads. When you're around people who constantly question themselves, who second-guess every move, who talk about why things won't work, that energy transfers. It's almost like a virus. You start picking up their hesitation without even noticing it. This is why your environment matters so much. Not because successful people are better human beings, but because the people around you constantly shape how you think about what's possible. If everyone in your circle is operating at a limited level of belief, their ceiling slowly becomes yours. Their doubt quietly becomes your doubt. And before long, you're making small decisions and wondering why your life isn't growing. Confidence also spreads, but it requires someone brave enough to carry it first. That someone has to be you. Here's what unwavering self-belief actually changes in practice. It changes how you walk into a room. It changes how you speak about your ideas. It changes how you handle rejection. Because when you truly believe in what you're building, one no doesn't shake the foundation. It just redirects you. It changes how long you stay in the game. Most people quit right before the breakthrough because they ran out of belief, not because they ran out of options. Self-belief is the fuel that keeps you moving when logic says stop. And this is exactly where Machiavelli's thinking becomes razor-sharp. He understood that the person who projects the most certainty holds the most power, not because they have all the answers, but because certainty is magnetic. People follow it, people trust it, people invest in it. You don't need to have everything figured out. You need to move like you do. That's not fake confidence. That's how leaders are built, from the inside out, long before the world catches up. Number 3, the role of ambition. Somewhere along the way, ambition got a bad reputation. People started treating it like a character flaw, like wanting more meant you were greedy, ungrateful, or full of yourself. So most people learned to shrink their desires in public. They started apologizing for their goals. They played small so nobody would call them arrogant. And that quiet shrinking, it costs more than people realize. Here's what nobody says out loud. Unnecessary humility is just as dangerous as unchecked ego. When you constantly downplay your potential to make others comfortable, you stop growing, you stop pushing, you stop becoming. Real humility isn't pretending you're less than you are. Real humility is knowing exactly what you're capable of and staying hungry enough to chase it without needing the world to applaud every step. Ambition is not ego. Let's make that separation clear right now. Ego says, I'm already the best. Ambition says, I'm going to keep getting better. Ego is closed. Ambition is hungry. Ego protects the current version of you. Ambition demands that you outgrow it. The most successful people treat ambition like a responsibility, not something to be ashamed of, something to be honored. Because when you have a genuine gift, a real skill, a real vision, hiding it doesn't make you humble. It makes you wasteful. You are not built to stay small. One of the biggest ways ambition gets killed is through the waiting game. People sit around waiting for someone to notice them, waiting for the right moment, waiting for permission to go after what they actually want. That permission is never coming. Nobody is going to walk up to you and say, hey, I think you should go build that thing you've been dreaming about. The world doesn't work that way. The world responds to people who move first and ask questions later. Stop waiting to feel ready. Nobody ever feels completely ready. The most accomplished people in every field started before they were qualified, before they had all the answers, before the timing was perfect. They moved anyway, and the motion created the momentum. Here's the practical shift you need to make starting today. Stop treating your ambition like something to manage. Start treating it like something to feed. Read more. Study the people who've done what you want to do. Put yourself in rooms where the standard is higher than what you're used to. Let other people's success fuel you instead of threaten you. And when doubt creeps in, because it will, remind yourself that every person who ever built something meaningful felt that same doubt. The difference is they acted despite it. Your ambition is not the problem. Your hesitation is. The world doesn't need more people playing it safe. It needs more people willing to go all in on their potential and show others what's actually possible. That starts with you deciding, right now, that your goals are not too big. They're just not finished yet. Now, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I own my ambition. Number 4, handling failure. Let's talk about the thing everyone experiences, but nobody wants to discuss openly. Failure, the kind that keeps you up at night, the kind where you gave something everything you had, and it still didn't work out. That kind of failure hits differently, and if you don't know how to process it correctly, it doesn't just slow you down, it stops you completely. Here's the most important thing to understand about failure. It is not a verdict on your worth. It is information about your approach. Read that again. When something doesn't work, it's not the universe telling you that you're not good enough. It's showing you specifically what needs to change. Your timing, your strategy, your preparation, your execution. That's incredibly valuable data if you're willing to look at it clearly instead of personally. The people who recover from failure fastest are not the ones who feel it the least. They're the ones who refuse to let it define them. They feel the disappointment fully. Then they ask one question. What did this teach me? That single shift from why did this happen to me to what can I learn from this changes everything. Slow progress is still progress. That sounds simple, but most people abandon ship the moment results stop coming quickly. Here's the truth about timelines. Real growth almost never looks impressive while it's happening. It looks like nothing for a long time. It looks like wasted effort. It looks like maybe you made the wrong choice. Then one day, everything compounds and the jump forward is undeniable. But most people quit during the invisible phase. They mistake silence for failure. They mistake slow for stop. If you're still moving, even barely, you're still in the game. And being in the game is the only requirement for eventually winning it. Protect your confidence during hard seasons. Not by pretending things are fine when they're not, but by separating what happened from who you are. You had a bad launch. You are not a failure. You lost a client. You are not worthless. You made a wrong call. You're not incompetent. The setback was temporary. Your identity doesn't have to be. Keep your standards high for your effort. Keep your judgment clear about your results, but keep your belief in yourself completely separate from both. That combination, high standards plus protected self-worth, is what keeps great people moving when everything around them is falling apart. Drop this affirmation in the comments. Failure builds me. Number 5. Strategic adaptation. Commitment to a goal is not the same as commitment to a single path. This is where a lot of driven people get stuck. They pick a direction, go hard at it, hit a wall, and interpret that wall as a sign they chose wrong. So they either quit or they keep slamming into the same wall expecting a different result. Both are mistakes. The strongest performers in any field share one specific quality. They hold their destination tightly and their methods loosely. The vision stays fixed. The route stays flexible. Think of it like GPS navigation. When you miss a turn, the GPS doesn't shut off and tell you the trip is over. It recalculates immediately, without drama, without questioning whether the destination was ever worth going to. You need to operate the same way. When a strategy stops working, That's not failure. That's feedback. It's the road telling you there's a better route. The only wrong response is to stop driving. History is full of people who succeeded by pivoting, not by quitting. Howard Schultz got rejected by over 200 investors before Starbucks became what it is today. He didn't abandon the vision of what he was building. He kept adjusting his pitch, his timing, his approach, until something broke through. The goal never changed. The execution evolved constantly. That's strategic adaptation in real life. Not weakness, not inconsistency, intelligence. Here's where most people go wrong with obstacles. They treat them as stop signs when they're actually detours. Every obstacle carries information. It shows you a gap in your preparation, a flaw in your plan, or an opportunity you hadn't considered. When you start looking at problems that way, as puzzles rather than punishments, your whole relationship with difficulty changes. You stop fearing hard seasons. You start mining them. The people who win long-term are rarely the most talented. They're the most adaptable. They're the ones who stay curious when things break down instead of getting bitter. Stay committed to where you're going. Stay creative about how you get there. And never confuse changing your approach with giving up on your purpose. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I adapt. I advance. Number 6. Identity transformation. Everything we've talked about in this video leads here. Because you can have the right mindset about realism. You can build strong self-belief. You can feed your ambition. You can handle failure well and adapt when things break down. But if your identity, the story you tell yourself about who you are, doesn't match where you're going, none of it sticks. Identity is the foundation. Everything else is built on top of it. Here's how most people set goals. They think about what they want to have, the money, the results, the recognition, and they chase those things without ever asking a deeper question. Who do I need to become to hold those things? That question changes everything. Because the person you are right now, your habits, your language, your daily decisions, was built to produce the life you currently have. To get a different life, you need to become a different person. Not fake, not performative. Genuinely different on the inside. Start with your language. Right now. Listen to how you talk about your future. Do you say, I'm trying to, or I hope one day, or maybe eventually? That language is weak. It signals uncertainty. It tells your brain you're not serious. Swap it out. Start saying, I'm building, or I'm becoming, or this is happening. The shift sounds small. The impact is massive. Words shape thought. Thought shapes behavior. Behavior shapes reality. Then look at your daily habits. Do they match the person you say you want to become? If you want to be a disciplined person, what does your morning look like? If you want to be financially free, how are you spending and saving right now? If you want to lead others, are you showing leadership in small situations today? The gap between who you are and who you want to be closes one daily decision at a time. Not through big dramatic changes, through consistent quiet actions that nobody sees but you. Do those things long enough, and confidence stops being something you chase. It becomes something you simply have, because your actions have earned it. You don't wait to become that person after the results arrive. You become that person now. You carry yourself like it. You speak like it. You make decisions like it. Every single day, before the world agrees with your vision. That's how identity transforms. That's how ordinary people become extraordinary. Not overnight, but undeniably. Here's what it all comes down to. Every single person the world now calls a legend was once called unrealistic. Every company that changed an industry was once laughed at in a boardroom. Every movement that reshaped society was once dismissed as impossible. The difference between the people who made it and the people who didn't wasn't talent. It wasn't luck. It wasn't perfect timing or the right connections. It was the courage to keep believing in something the world couldn't see yet. That's what this video has really been about. Not blind optimism, not ignoring reality, but building the kind of deep, strategic, unshakable belief in yourself that lets you keep moving when everything around you is telling you to stop. You learned that realism, the way most people use it, quietly kills more potential than failure ever does. You learned that confidence comes before evidence, not after it. You learned that ambition is a responsibility, not a character flaw. You learned that failure is a teacher, not a verdict. You learned that great vision requires flexible execution. And you learned that the most powerful thing you can do right now is start becoming the person your future requires, today, before the results show up. That's a complete roadmap, not theory. Actionable steps you can start using the moment this video ends. If this video gave you something real, a shift in thinking, a moment of clarity, or one idea that hit differently.
And that was Machiavelli, Psychopathy. Back in a minute. Thank you. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there, and reminding you that you're not neutral and that the government has no rights.